So every year, and so many dreamers come together to fight for those few seats of UPSC. This year was no different when we had some of the brightest minds of the country coming together and competing for the UPSC exam. So this year, what was special were the delays caused of the COVID pandemic, and we had the interview scheduled for a later date. That increased the anxiety among the candidates. But still, though, the winners that have emerged have done all the hard work and the right things to crack it. Let's hear it from one of our very amazing toppers. We have with us Aman Chandran, who has secured AIR 197. Welcome, Aman. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm feeling great.
Aman, this is amazing. AIR 197. This is an aspiration for so many other candidates who are looking forward to start their journey. What do you have to say about this entire pandemic and how it affected or it got on your nerves while preparing for interview?
Yeah, fortunately, I had my interview in February itself. So before all this pandemic situation got too serious, at that time we were hearing about something like this coronavirus happening somewhere in China and South Korea and Japan. But I don't think that anyone would have imagined that it would become so serious and it would affect our own lives so directly at that time. So I was fortunate enough that my formalities were completed before in February itself. I mean.
Great. I guess you have been lucky there. But Aman, tell me about how the entire journey has been. It's a long journey. It's a very long journey, and a lot of people go through the ups and downs, the demotivation, sometimes retardness, lethargy. So many things add on. How did you keep yourself motivated for such a long period of time?
I think that there is something like there's this quote which I have read and which I like very much, and it goes something like this: when you think about, when you want to quit, when you feel like you want to quit, always remember the reason why you started, something in the first place. So, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I began my UPSC journey in November of 2017. So it has been almost 3 years that I've been in this field, and in that time, obviously, there have been periods when I have felt when I felt the pangs of failure, if I may say, because last year I did attend the interview, but I did not make it. So all kinds of experiences one has in this preparation period, because UPSC preparation is like a process which changes you as an individual, and you will grow as a person no matter if you succeed or you fail. So there will be lots of ups and downs. It is truly a roller coaster ride. So only thing that I kept in mind was I did not think too much about the consequences. Like even when I was attending the examination, what a mistake that many people do is that if they feel that the exam is not going their way, they start panicking and they start thinking about the consequences. Okay, what will happen if I fail? What will happen if I succeed? So our mind, puts that additional burden upon us. So it's better not to think about that. Like even in the Bhagavad Gita, they say that karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So you only have your control over your actions. So you do the right thing, you do your duty, you do what should be done, and if you deserve it and if you put in the right work, then you will get it. That's all.
Very well said. As you just said, I would like to repeat your words that whenever you feel down, just remember why you started in the first place. So we would like to know how this inspiration to crack the UPSC came to you.
UPSC is not something like, I do not come from that kind of a background where UPSC is a natural choice. It was not a natural choice for me. I was obviously very interested. Even since childhood, I was really interested in reading. I used to read newspapers even in school, and the go-to newspaper that they say, the Hindu, I used to read it from school itself. So I was familiar with a lot of concepts, a lot of topics which are which can help us in the UPSC preparation. But it was not. I have not planned on choosing it as a career at that point of time. The inspiration for UPSC mainly came to me while I was studying in college. because that was a time when we become more socially and politically aware about our surroundings and our place in society essentially. So at that point of time, I started feeling that what can I do to make a contribution to not just my country but also to my people. So I felt that civil service is a field in which offers that kind of potential. I mean, you can have that kind of a position where every decision that you make, it can affect the lives of many people, millions of people. So it is the best platform for making a change in that manner. So that's why I decided that plus it matches my aptitude. I felt that my aptitude, my personality, my talents and abilities, all of them are more suitable towards a career in the UPSC Civil Services. So that's why I decided to pursue a career in this.
That's it. Aman, as you said, in your beginning, like in the beginning of your preparation, you started reading newspapers very early. How important it is for a civil servant aspirant to start reading newspaper, and how early in the preparation should you think one start reading the newspapers?
Regarding the newspapers, I would say that you should begin it yesterday, as a way of saying. So newspaper reading is something that will always help you, even if you're not planning to pursue a career in civil services, if you have not made that final decision yet, but still, if you have the habit of reading the newspapers, it will put you in that frame of mind. It will give you that awareness. It will give you that kind of an aptitude for which will help you in preparation for the UPSC Civil Services Examinations. Because when you are a frequent reader of these newspapers, then you have a knowledge about, or you already have a knowledge about the events of national and international importance, and you know about the various legislations and for policy proposals, and you have an aptitude for that because of reading newspapers, and that can help you in the examinations.
So as per Aman, as soon as you start thinking about preparing for this exam, even though you're not maybe rolling it out the next day, start reading newspapers. It will help you in a long run. All right, coming up next, after newspapers, the biggest thing is preparing for your general studies. What was your take on general studies preparation?
So general studies, as all aspirants might be knowing, consists of subjects like history, geography, polity, environment, economics. So even in school, I was an avid reader. So I had an interest in these areas. Even though I did my graduation in engineering, my natural inclination was always towards the social sciences. So NCRTs, I think, are the basis of your civil service preparation. They are the foundation. So you need to work on the NCRTs itself. So once you are familiar with the NCRT material, that means you have that foundation on which you can build by referring to the more advanced materials. So I think that NCRTs are the key, and that's why when people say that when they talk about civil service preparation, they always talk about newspapers and NCRTs, and it has become sort of a cliche. But I think that it is as simple as that. I mean, you need to build the foundation, and the foundation is built by NCRTs and newspapers. On that, obviously, you will then refer to more advanced materials.
All right. So according to Aman, you should start your base with the NCRTs. But then there is this confusion: from which standard should you start your NCRTs? Is it 6th onwards or is it 10th onwards? It's just 11, 12. Which particular subject and which particular standard should one start with? Let's suppose, say history, for example. How early, which standard books should one read for history subject to go to the advanced books?
I think that depends on the individual, because some people have a natural interest in these areas. Some people have a natural inclination towards something else. As far as I was concerned, I did not have to go back to 6th standard. I just started from 10th itself. But that was because I already had an interest in these areas. So if you're a more technical minded person, then maybe 6th standard onwards would be better. So it depends on individual. You just need to check your aptitude and your knowledge base, and based on that you can begin from any class. There is no set rule or formula as such for this.
I mean, there are certain books that one vouches for when they start the preparation. Let's go with the prelims first of all. How do you think one should start preparing for the prelims? Do you think prelims and mains are integrated together and they should be well prepared together as a whole? Or do you believe that they should be separately prepared for?
So each stage of the preparation will require a different approach. Basically, when you start preparing and you have time, say some 8 to 10 months before the preliminaries, at that point you're not differentiating between the preliminaries or the mains. At that point you're building your knowledge, and for that you don't differentiate as such. So you're studying for prelims and mains together. But at the same time, you are focusing on your current affairs, you're focusing on your optionals. So that is a strategy that you adopt some 8 to 10 months before the preliminaries. But if the preliminaries are in say May or June, as they normally are in a normal year, but obviously this time it's different. So 2 months before that, you abandon everything else and you focus solely on preliminaries. And how do you prepare for preliminaries? In this 8 to 10 month period, you need to prepare your notes. You need to consolidate your study material. So as we all know that the syllabus for UPSC is very vast. So all the study materials will be scattered here and there. What you need to do is you need to gather it all and organize it in one place, easily accessible way, so that 2 months before the preliminaries, all you need to do is keep working on that limited stuff. So it's not about how much you're studying, it's how well you're studying, what you're studying. So limit your material, keep all your study materials together concisely, and then work on that for 2 months. And the 2 months before preliminaries, it will be very intense. You're not thinking about mains, you're not thinking about optional, you're not thinking about anything else. All you need to think about is the preliminaries.
Alright, that was Aman's strategy for the prelims, but then comes the big picture when we move from prelims, as it's just qualifying in nature, to that aspect of the exam which actually scores your rank. We come to the mains, and here we have so many different subjects and so little time. In a week's time, you have to write so many papers, so it becomes very hectic at that time. Let's start with essay. How do you suggest that aspirants should go ahead and prepare for the essay part?
So the essay is a very important paper. A lot of people make the blunder that, I mean, if they are reasonably good with language, they think that they can write an essay without much preparation. But that is the biggest mistake that you can make in your civil service preparation. It is not as your language that matters as much, it is your presentation. So you need to practice on your essay a lot of times before you write your main examination. While writing essay, a few things that you must consider. Essay is the paper where you have the luxury of time, which you do not get in other GS papers. So in essay paper, what a lot of people do is they spend some 30 to 45 minutes in framing their essay. So there will be space given for it in the back of the booklet. And for 30 to 45 minutes, you need to frame your essay, you need to organize it, you need to include what all points you want to include. You need to frame the anecdotes and quotes that you want to include. You need to make it, you need to enrich it with a lot of things. It cannot be just plain text. So you need to enrich it with quotes and anecdotes and examples and your experiences. So all these things, which one may call tidbits, you need to organize, and you need to organize your essay. That you can do for 30 to 45 minutes. And the rest of the time you will write your essay. And the second aspect is that there will be 2 essays, obviously, and one of them can be rather abstract. So one, you know what you want to write, because it will be something like, say, for example, the challenges in the health and education sector or something like that. So that is something which you can generate points about quite easily. The other can be rather abstract. So tackling the abstract essay is key. How do we do it? We make it concrete. We make it concrete by taking that quote and interpreting it in various ways, and then you can substantiate it with lots of examples and anecdotes and such things. So that's the strategy for essay.
So that was Aman's strategy for essay. But next we have GS paper 1, mostly static apart from the society part. What were your core sources that you would suggest or vouch by if you have to suggest to any new aspirants?
So GS1 consists of, as we might be knowing, consists of history and geography. It's a very vast paper with a very vast scope, because history and geography are full subjects by themselves. So, and plus there are obviously other topics as well on which the questions from GS1 come. So Gs1 strategy, I would like to say that Gs1 or 2 or 3, all three of these papers have more or less the same strategy, which is that you need to pack your answer with facts, figures, with nouns and names, that you need the content, specific content. Your points cannot be dry and just generic in nature. You need specific points. So and plus you need to highlight and underline your the facts and figures that you use. For example, if the question is about poverty, then you include such statements like the Rangarajan committee report and 29%. So this 29%, Rangarajan, these are the names which will fetch you marks. So that is what you need to highlight. And the second aspect is that while framing your answer, always segment your answer. How do we do it? Every question will have several parts. So you understand that parts, that is the first thing that you do. And always remember that the major factor in mains is time. So you get 3 hours, and that 3 hours will be barely enough to finish that exam. And only when you're not taking too much time to think, you're trusting your muscle memory, you're not putting down the pen for even 1 second. So that is how intense it is. It is very demanding both physically and mentally. So that is what you need to keep in mind, and always begin with the 15 markers. So as we might be knowing, there are 10 mark questions, 10 15 mark questions. So total of 20 questions for 250 marks. What I used to do is I always used to start with the 15 markers, because you can put more effort into it, and that will fetch you more marks compared to the 10 markers. And once you have done with the 15 markers, then obviously your best option is to give as much importance to the 10 markers as well, but that might not be possible in the exam scenario. So that's why we always start with the 15 markers. So that is another thing. And the next point, like I told about the segmentation of the answer. So every question will have several parts. So you need to, that's the first thing that you need to do, and identify what are the parts of the exam question. And then you segment your answer by putting each segment headline, you put it in a box, you make it visible. So our basic intention is to make the job of the examiner as easy as possible. We don't want the examiner to get frustrated by making ourselves illegible or not presenting ourselves clearly. So always be very legible, very neat, and very organized in your answers. Secondly, use points to frame your answers. Do not write in paragraphs. So write points and complete your points. Do not write empty phrases like, for example, do not write that like we used to, like it is very efficient, and such kind of bland statements which do not mean anything. Avoid such statements if you do not have the luxury of using even a single frivolous statement. Every statement of you must be such that you cannot remove any word from it without compromising its meaning. So that's how tight, that's how concise, and that's how clear it should be.
All right, so the point to take away from this discussion, Aman, is always please the examiner write it very clearly. Everything that you have to write, try not to be generic, and also if you can write down points rather than paragraphs, that will be great. Accordingly, supplement your answers with lots of facts like your committee names, recommendations, your indexes, etc. Great. So let's move to the next paper, that is GS paper 2. What was your strategy when you prepared for GS paper 2?
So GS paper 2, I think that the answer writing of all three papers is more or less the same, except the fact that in GS, like in geography questions, we'll need lots of maps, and like in GS3, the factual content will be even more, because it's a paper in which there is a lot of scope for facts. Now, as far as the preparation is concerned, GS2 is mostly polity, constitution, governance, such topics. So obviously for polity, the go-to book is considered Lakshmikant. So Lakshmikant is the basis on which we prepare for GS2. Apart from that, I also used to refer to the Bare Act of the Constitution of India. So the Constitution of India, there you can get the Bare Act app on Play Store, and you can refer to it whenever there is any doubt about anything, because it is very helpful in order to clear any doubts that you might have regarding any concepts on polity. And
All right, there's some confusion among the aspirants that drawing the maps is very much necessary, and in order to beautify their answers, sometimes they spend a lot of time in making it more creative, like with the use of maps or diagrams. How useful do you think that is, or what would you suggest in that aspect?
I think that it is important, but the major factor is, like I said, time. So when you're doing your calculation, you'll find that for 10 mark questions, you will get maximum of 8 minutes, and that's your calculation. And for 15 markers, you're getting 11 minutes. So that is how you will have to manage it. And I mean, a few minutes here and there. So you have to always keep a look on your watch, how much time you're spending on one question, because it is easy to get carried away for a newcomer. So for maps, I would suggest that there is no need to make it. I mean, you should practice drawing your maps quickly, and it's not necessary that it should be 100% perfect. The more important aspect is that it gives an idea about what is it that you want to convey. So drawing maps unnecessarily is not needed. Like, you have to understand the demand of the question. So if the question is about seismic regions of India, then that is a question that you cannot answer without maps. So for that you will need your maps. So you need to be able to discriminate which question needs maps and which question does not need maps. At the same time, you should not be drawing it for the first time in the examination hall. It should be something that should come from your muscle memory. So if you have drawn it a lot of times, obviously it will not take you more than, say, 20-30 seconds to draw the map.
Aman, this discussion brings us to the point that how soon do you think an aspirant should start practicing for the mains answers? When do you think they should start?
I would suggest that once you have completed your preliminaries and you have a reasonable chance of getting selected, you should not wait for the results. At that point itself, you should start your writing practice and your optional preparation. So I would not say that you should start it during a prelims preparation itself, because you need to have that kind of memory fresh in your mind. So if you're doing it before prelims, then you go through the whole prelims process, which itself is very demanding. Then it might not be as useful to you at that time. So soon after prelims, if you feel that you have a reasonable chance of succeeding or clearing the examination, then you should start your writing practice, get a lot of feedback from senior aspirants, from the veterans of this one, and keep working on it again and again. I myself remember I spent a lot of time, hours and hours on my writing, both for optional and for GS. So write, practice. There is no other shortcut for this.
So it takes a lot of practice to master your skills in answer writing. Means it's not easy, and you should spend a lot of time after your prelims are done with. Let's go to the next paper. But before we go, there is a question regarding paper 3 and paper 4. A lot of paper 3 and paper 4 is dynamic. What was your strategy for current affairs? Since there's a lot of information and it's very, very confusing for the aspirants to filter out the material, how would you suggest that one goes ahead with the current affairs?
So current affairs is a very important aspect of preparation, both for the prelims and for mains as well. So the way that I followed my current affairs was, the first one was reading the newspaper daily and preparing the notes. So, and that is something that you need to practice, because otherwise you'll be spending an inordinate amount of time on the newspaper. It's like, even though some people who go on for 3 to 4 hours, and you do not have the luxury of that, using up that kind of time. So keep yourself. I mean, you need to practice what you need in the newspaper. You need to understand what is needed and what is not needed. That is the most important aspect of newspaper reading. Once you get that trick or get that knack, then it does not take too much time. Then you can just write your notes regarding the newspaper. And second thing that I used to do, obviously there are lots of materials available online, resources available online. I used to refer to them and prepare my own notes, because I feel that at the time of the examination, it is very difficult to go through all these online resources again and again. You need to have your own notes in your hand that you can refer anytime, no matter where you are. So that's what I used to do. And you need to brush up on that even till the morning of the examination. Some people feel that, I mean, they have prepared, okay, I have studied for a whole year. What is it that I can do one day before the exam that I have not done already? But that is the wrong kind of thinking. Till the morning of the exam, you need to be, you need to have these facts on your fingertips. You need to keep brushing up on them. Keep yourself refreshed on that. So that's the strategy that I use for current affairs. Till the last itself, I was referring my notes constantly. So that is the strategy for GS3, for which you need current affairs. GS4 is the ethics paper, which is of a different nature than the other three papers. So for ethics, there will be 4 case studies and there will be lots of other questions. That's the usual pattern. So the first thing that I did was I always used to start with the case studies, because each case study is worth 20 marks. So that's a lot of marks. If you do the 4 case studies well, that's 80 marks. So you can get a lot of a big chunk of your marks you can get from the case studies if you write them well. So you need to give importance to them. They're usually at the last. So sometimes it can happen that you spend too much time on the other questions, and by the time you get to the case studies, you do not have the time to give them adequate treatment, and that can result in a loss of a lot of marks. So always begin with the case studies. And once you begin with the case studies, you should organize your answer. Do not write it as an essay. So for every case study, there will be usually it's usually the pattern where you are given many choices and you are told to analyze those choices. So so that is what you need to do. You need to check out, okay, these are the choices that I have. You need to understand that all this should happen in real time. I mean, it's not as if you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I will write this like this and write like this. You don't have the time for that. So it is happening in real time. You're thinking, you're already framing your answer as you're writing it, and you have all these choices and you're giving those choices, you're analyzing those choices, the pros and the cons, all these things you are doing. And that is the basic approach for case study. And the second aspect is the other questions that they have, the non-case study questions in ethics. So as far as they are concerned, the most important asset that you will have is your originality of thought. Ethics is not something that can be taught as such. It's not something that you can read and memorize. It's not something that you can memorize. Obviously, there are some concepts which, if you're not familiar, such as the civil service foundational values, such as integrity, honesty, it is possible that some people may not be familiar with these terms, fortitude and such. So for them, it will be beneficial if they know what these terms mean, so that they can use them in their answers. And that is the maximum preparation that you can do for ethics. Other than that, what you can do is writing practice. So always keep writing, always keep getting the feedback. The most important asset, like I said, is originality of thought. And once you read the question, you need to use that originality of thought in order to answer it. And once again, even ethics, I wrote in points itself. Basic writing procedure was the same as the other 3 GS papers, except that in this ethics, it is not the numbers of facts or figures that are more important. It is your originality of thought and how you frame your answer. So the readability, the flow of the answer, all these are things that matter in ethics. So that's the strategy for ethics.
What factors were behind your selection of your optional subject? Would you enlighten the students who are, as you said, you are from engineering background, and a lot of science aspirants find it particularly difficult to decide upon their optionals. So what was your strategy while deciding upon your optional subject?
So while taking up an optional, there are several factors which one must consider. As we might be knowing, optional is the most important aspect of your base preparation, because it consists of a huge bulk of marks. So it is also the paper in which the maximum amount of variation can occur in the marks of the candidates, because in general studies paper and in the essay paper, normally it is seen that there is not that much of a variation. There is a variation definitely, obviously, but still the kind of difference that an optional can make, optional can make or break your preparation. So that is the whole point of the optional. So while taking up an optional, there are several things which one must consider. The first and foremost factor is your aptitude. So do not just take up an optional because someone else is taking it or your friend is taking it. Take up an optional only if you feel comfortable with it. So how does that happen? You check the most popular optionals such as anthropology, sociology, philosophy, public administration, lots of optionals which most of the aspirants take up. You can check their syllabus, you can check their previous year question papers, you can see if you have the aptitude for it, you can see if it is something that you can do. So your aptitude is key. That is the most important factor. The second factor is the guidance. So if you get the good guidance, you should take up that optional. Uh, and the third most important factor, which I would say, is the nature of the optional itself. Some optionals will be static, some will be dynamic. So for a dynamic optional, you need to update your preparation every year. So you need to always be ready for more information that you might have to use on that optional. Some optionals are static, which means that the syllabus is fixed. So it's the same thing which you need to study every year. So obviously static options offer an advantage to you, which you might not have in taking up a dynamic optional. Second, I would like to say that options which deal with social sciences, I think, should be preferable to options which deal with pure science or engineering. But then again, it is depending upon your aptitude. So even if you need to take some time on deciding your optional, and if you are an aspirant who has just started your preparation and you're wondering which optional you should take, I would say that it is not a decision that you should make it haste. You give some time to it, you give some thought to it, you put some research into it, and only after then should you take up an option.
So the entire crux is while selecting your optional, make sure that you have the right aptitude for it, and you also go through the syllabus. Don't go for the hype of the optional as per say the toppers are taking particular optional or some other thing. That may add some value, but most important is your aptitude and how well would you define your preparation to the dynamic and statics of the subject. So, Aman, tell us in general, what amount of time did you devote for the preparation of your optional exam?
So after prelims, I started preparing my optional, and the basic strategy is very simple. You study the material that is given to you, and you keep writing, you keep practicing. So just like in GS papers, in optional also, the only practice is that you write, and that's the and you get the feedback and you improve upon it. It's not just you're just writing. So you write, you get your feedback, you see where you're lacking, where you need to make some changes, and that you try to incorporate in your answer. And that's how you prepare for optional. The basic strategy which I followed was that you keep working on that material. You do not feel that, okay, I've already read this once, so it is not needed anymore. I can say that in 2 years of preparation, I wrote the mains twice. So in all, I think I would have revised my material some 30 to 40 times. So that is how thorough, that is how intense you have to be in your preparation.
So it's a very thorough preparation, and optional, as he said, can make or break your score. You have to be very consistent about it, and also the most important part is when you write down your answer, your mentor, when he gives you some corrections, you need to incorporate those corrections into your answer. The next time you write down those answers. So it's all about a lot of hard work put in when you write your mains. Most important is a lot of practice, lot of revision, and also incorporation of the mistakes that you did earlier, so that that's not repeated in the exam. And make sure to write a lot, and it should never be the first time you write your answers in your mains exam. So this was the entire strategy of our mains preparation. Now comes the next part. Once the mains list is out, everyone is very excited as they are going to appear for the interview part. It seems very easy, but given the fact that half of the candidates are ousted from this round, it makes a major impact. Now, Aman, we would like to know, how did you went ahead with your preparation to the interview part?
Okay. So I would like to begin by saying that a major mistake that a lot of aspirants make is that once they clear the base examination, they feel that the final list is almost a done deal, which is not the case, because a lot of filtering happens even after the interview stage. And a lot of people think that at an interview is something which they can just answer on the spot. It is not true at all. You need to just as intensely and just as you put that much time and effort into your prelims and mains, that much seriousness, that much effort, that much time you need to invest in your interview preparation as well. And how do we go about preparing? Obviously, it is not at all possible to predict what the interview board might ask. There is no syllabus as such. They can ask anything which they feel is necessary to evaluate you as a person. So still there are a few things we can do. That is the first of all that we fill in the detailed application form called the DAF, and we put in a lot of information in that. So we put in our school, our college, our optional, our hobbies, our interests, our graduation subjects. So a lot of information we put in that, which defines who we are as a person. So that is something which they will ask you about, because they want to know if you are aware of yourself. So that is kind of self-awareness. So never try to put in anything which you cannot defend in front of the interview board. A lot of people feel that if they can bluff in front of the interview board. That will never happen. You will always have to be honest, and if you try to bluff, it will backfire very badly. So always be honest, always prepare well for the interview. How do you prepare well? Prepare on your detailed application form, gain knowledge about yourself, your college, your home state, your district, your optional, your graduation, your hobbies and interests. So if you are giving your hobby as say reading or say bird watching or something like that, you need to be able to defend it. They will ask you about it, and then they will see if your answers are satisfactory or if you are just writing anything. So always be ready to defend that. So only write something which is true. So that is the thing about the detailed application form. Apart from that, you also need to brush up on your graduation topics. That is, you might have done engineering or whatever. It might have been a long time since you last referred to those materials, but it will always be to be on the safer side. It will be a better idea to make yourself familiar with those concepts once again. And secondly, keep focusing on the current affairs. You cannot let up on the current affairs after the mains. You need to keep working on them, so that if they ask something about any event of national and international importance, and they find that you do not know about it, it will create a negative impression. So current affairs, your detailed application form, both these aspects you need to prepare very well. Then again, it is not at all possible to predict what they might ask. So that is something which you need to be prepared for. You always be prepared for any contingency. Do not get panicked in front of the interview board, and always be pleasant. Always keep your smile. Always answer them politely. Never be rude. Do not interrupt them in any case, under any circumstances, and keep your answers short and to the point. So these are the basic strategies for the interview board.
As they say, the DAP is your biodata for the interviews. So as per Aman, be very sure about what you write down in your DAP. Also, make sure to be very calm. Don't lose your cool whenever you don't know the answer, because it's very dynamic and things can happen. Don't lose your connect with current affairs after the means, as some of the students do. And these things kept in mind can help you clear the interview easily. So Aman, this was about the entire journey, about the entire preparation for UPSC aspirants. We have this small little round. I would just like to ask, a lot of myths go around the preparation, that it's very hard, it's unachievable, a lot of things, you have to let go of so many things and you have to study for so many hours to crack this exam. So what one myth would you like to bust about UPSC preparation?
So the myth about UPSC preparation, which I would like to bust, is like you said at your beginning, that many people feel it is unachievable. It is not at all unachievable. It is totally achievable. But you need to have that kind of an attitude. Like this whole preparation process, obviously it is a very long process. A lot of challenges will be there. You might be facing a lot of difficulties. There may be financial obligations. You may start feeling that you are not having any kind of entertainment in your life, because this preparation is obviously a process which has a potential of taking over your whole life, and you will have to battle feelings of anxiety, of feelings of being left behind, feelings that you're not making any progress at an age when this is like the prime of a youth. So 20 to 25, people are making huge strides, they're moving ahead in their careers, they're settling down, all that kind of things are happening around you, and you feel like you're stuck up in this chakravyu of civil service preparation. So that kind of feelings you will have to battle. You will need to motivate yourself. Motivation cannot come from outside. No one can tell you, okay, you should do this, you should do that, because that does not work. Motivation always, if it needs to work, it needs to come from within. So that's the major thing. And second thing, that UPSC is unachievable, is totally achievable, because end of the day it is an examination. If you understand the demand of the examination, if you do what you should do, if you do not make any excuses, if you are able to keep your mental composure, if you're able to keep calm, then definitely you will be able to crack it. That being said, obviously there are lots of factors which are not in our hands, which are not in our control. So that is something that we will need to deal with, and that is part of life. So someone might feel that they have put in everything, but still they might not be able to succeed, and that might generate feelings that okay, it is unachievable. But I would like to say that there is the only time that you fail is when you stop trying. So if you feel that you have the aptitude for it, if you feel that you're doing the right thing, then obviously you should go for it. The most important factor is that you should have the aptitude for it. A lot of people come in for civil service preparation for the wrong reasons, such as the pressure of the society or family, or dreams of power and fame. So if you are coming because of those reasons, and the reality of civil service preparation hits you, then it becomes difficult to cope, because you came with so many dreams and suddenly your life is not matching up to those expectations. So that is when a lot of people get disheartened and they feel that the UPSC is unachievable. So always keep your expectations low. You understand the demand of the examination, you respect the examination, you should always respect it. You should not take it in a light manner or cavalier manner. Be serious about it. If you're not serious about it, you're wasting your time and money, so it is better to do something else. So be serious about it, understand the demand of the examination, do what you need to do, take one day at a time, follow a clear timetable, keep your mental composure, your mental balance, and when you feel like to quit, always remember the reason why you started in the first place. So that's the thing.
Aman, as you just mentioned about your timetable, how would you suggest that the aspirants prepare their timetable or the monthly schedule as per the final preparation for prelims and mains?
So the timetable is very important. Timetable is something which will give you a direction to your preparation. Otherwise, if you are just studying from here and there a lot of things, it will be like a ship without a compass. So the ship will not reach its destination at all. So that's why you need to have a timetable, and this timetable is something which should be adjusted in accordance to the stage in which you are preparing. So the timetable that you have 8 months before the preliminaries will not be the timetable you are following 2 months before the preliminaries. Similarly, the timetable that you are following for the preliminaries will not be. So you will have to adjust your strategy in accordance with the stage of preparation with which you are in. In the beginning, there is a particular timetable that you follow. So for example, if you're just thinking about civil service preparation, now is the time to start newspaper reading and your NCRTs. If you have started serious preparation in earnest and you're 8 to 10, you're planning to write it next year, then this is the time when you start on your GS papers and your optional subjects. So if the question is about a daily timetable, I would like to say that keep a pace which you can maintain through the whole year. Some people, they take up too much burden, and within 2 weeks they burn out, and then the whole preparation goes haywire. So keep a pace which you can maintain. You always remember that this is a marathon, it is not a sprint, it's not a 100-meter race, it's a marathon. So it's more important to be consistent than to be intense. That is obviously depending upon the stage of the preparation. 2 months before the preliminaries, you do not have any free time. 2 months before the preliminaries, every waking time, you are thinking about the prelims, you're living, you're breathing, you're drinking, you're eating, you're thinking about UPSC Civil Service Examinations 2 months before the examinations. So for each stage, there's a different strategy. So there is no fixed, there is no one universal timetable which can apply through the whole preparation period. Depending on the demand of the examination, depending on your needs, you should adjust your timetables.
All right, coming up to the last part, as Aman just said, it's an exam which needs all the dedication, devotion, and most importantly, your consistency throughout the year if you want to crack this exam. With all of this put together, one suggestion that you would like to give to the aspirants who are beginning their preparation this year and planning to give the exam maybe next year, after next year?
So if you are a student who is beginning his civil service preparation seriously and he is devoting his full time to it, this is the time when you build upon the material, the knowledge which will help you throughout your civil service journey. So most people, they attend one course, like one main course, PCM course, 6 months course, whatever, and then that knowledge they use to throughout their whole preparation period. So even if you are not someone who is attending coaching, now is the time uh, uh, when you devote yourself completely to the cause of civil service. So be prepared to be consistent. Most importantly, you will need to be mentally in that kind of place where you can give your full effort without feeling without feeling the need to give up, because this is a process which takes a toll upon you both physically and mentally. um, so that is something which you will be able to learn to handle. So throughout your, and if you're someone who is self-preparing, then you might be feeling a lot. You might get feelings of loneliness. You might get feelings that you are adrift. You are not, making any progress, or you are not sure if you are on the right track. So all these are feelings which one will have to face. So if you are someone who is planning to write the examination next year, then you have to understand that every single moment is very precious. So always keep in mind that you are not going off track, because that is a possibility when one is preparing some 8 to 1 years, because you're in your mind you're thinking the exam is only after 1 year. So why I should study now, why I should take up all this uncomfortable study materials and waste my time on this. All these kind of feelings you will have. That is why it is very important that you do not start thinking about the results in the beginning itself. So never count your chickens before they hatch. At that point, you're not thinking, okay, what will happen once I get prelims? What will happen once I get mains? What will happen if I get? You're already dreaming about giving interviews to news channels, and that kind of mindset will not help you, because you will have to take one day at a time. So once you have prepared a timetable, you stick to it. Do not think too much about the future, because once you have made your decision that you want to attempt civil service, then that is your decision, and you will have to learn that decision. So you will have to make your peace with it.
So the final crux of it is, to all the aspirants who are beginning this journey, it's an arduous road, it's a long road, and you have to be very consistent. You have to live yourself through the highs and lows of the preparation. Don't lose your heart. Always remember the point where you started, and instead of believing and moving towards the dream of giving those interviews or reaping the benefits of your hard work through the years, just remember, करने वाली का रस्ते माँ परेशु कदचन. Always work hard for the things. Nothing is in your hand, but once you are sincere, your efforts will finally be rewarded. Thank you so much, Aman, for your time. But also with this entire dedicated journey of yours, we wish you all the very best for your bright future and for the days to come. Thank you so much, Aman.
Thank you for having me.